our production team mantra. My lead installers and my managers all brought one expectation. And then we agreed on adding a couple more. We got it printed on a big banner, all signed it in the warehouse. Every day when we have a decision to make, we look up at that banner and make sure that the decision follows all those rules and expectations.
That's really good.
Man, I love that. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fitz and Franson Show. I'm Fitz.
And I'm Franson.
This is a show where we talk about leadership, business, and growth, and what it actually takes to build something that lasts.
Today, we've got a special guest joining us, someone who's spent well over a decade in the home improvement industry, building teams, scaling operations, and learning some hard lessons about what it takes to grow the right way.
I think you'll find, too, that some of his philosophies might challenge a little bit of that conventional wisdom out there and about growth and scaling a little bit.
Yeah, so joining us today is someone we have the pleasure of working with here at Powerful, Shaun Hilgart. Shaun is the owner of White Cloud Concrete Coatings out of Boise, Idaho.
What makes Shaun's perspective unique, I think, is a little bit of your journey, Shaun, and he's been out on the front lines. I know that from working at Tunderland in Wisconsin, and I had the opportunity to run national operations for jacuzzi bath remodel across several locations at certain points there, and now getting the opportunity to build your company from the ground up there.
Shaun, welcome to the show.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, sir. Before we dive into the meat of the conversation today, if you wouldn't mind, give our listeners here, I guess, a quick version of your story, so to speak.
Yeah, sure. So never had the intention of getting into home improvements. Went to college to be a wildlife biologist, believe it or not, and was working for the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources doing white-tailed deer research, and met my wife. The thing about being a wildlife biologist is you work about 6 months at a time, and then you move across the country and then keep doing that over and over again. And that wasn't going to work out since I fell in love with my wife. So decided to go back to grad school for management and needed a job to pay my rent. So my mom is actually best friends with Brian Gottlieb's wife, Kathy. So she's like, hey, my friend's husband has a business called Tunderland. Why don't you give him a call and see if he's hiring? So I called Brian, and he hired me to put together job folders and answer the phone at Tunderland. And that started my home improvement journey back in 2013. So worked with Brian at Tunderland for 3 years, and then moved up to northern Wisconsin to take over my father-in-law's general contracting business. Wanted to go out on my own and have my own business, and he was retiring. So took that over and got a really fast crash course on what it means to be a business owner as a young man. Running anything from putting a new roof on a small ranch to building a 6,000 square foot kids camp lodge. We dove in head first and had a blast doing it. Started making real money, which was really fun. After being paid $10 an hour to be a wildlife research biologist. Ended up selling that business right before COVID. We liquidated it. And then my wife had always dreamed of moving out west, so we moved to Boise, Idaho, and worked at Toll Brothers for a brief time as a superintendent building houses for Toll Brothers. And then got a call from Brian Gottlieb again and said that he was working with Jacuzzi on this new factory-owned jacuzzi bath remodel brand and wanted me to open up the Boise branch. So got that up and running, got it to profitable month 3, and we were in the green. Built that company up to, we were doing about $600,000 a month in showers, and then got promoted to national production manager and helped them get our footprint to 7 locations nationwide, and was pretty much responsible for everything post-sale, customer service and production.
Wow.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah. So something you mentioned there that I wanted to kind of go back to and revisit. You said you started at Tunderland and I maybe an admin role, putting together job folders or answering phones. Was this while you were in grad school?
Yeah. So I'd work at Tunderland from 6 to 2, and then I would do classes from about 2 to 6 or 7, depending on the day. So Brian worked with me on my schedule so I could do both.
Oh, that's awesome. And so within 3 years, you were already off doing your own thing. I don't know if that's a typical trajectory. What would you say happened in those 3 years that kind of changed things for you?
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity at Tunderland. When I started there, they were just getting their one-day bath side of the business going. They started with the Four Seasons Sunrooms brand, and then we're expanding into the bath space. And I always tell this story. I shared office with the COO, and we didn't have heat in our office. So whoever got in first in the morning would turn on all the space heaters in the office in the middle of Wisconsin winter, and we'd sit there and freeze till the space heaters warmed up the office for the day. But Brian was growing that company so fast. I mean, I I had that admin role for maybe a couple months and then kept moving up. And then eventually when I left, I was assistant production manager for all 4 divisions of the company, pretty much handling all customer scheduling, interaction, service, really what most people know as the customer care department at this point. We kind of molded my position into that, but covering sunrooms, windows, baths, and cabinet refacing.
Very cool. I think one of the things that's fun about this business, I've always said, is once you get into it and you kind of get up and running, it, scratches you and you get an itch that you kind of can't stop scratching at. Sounds like that might have happened to you. And I think it's one of those things that Jay and I talk a lot about on the show. And I know Tunderland is kind of famous for this, is when you start pouring into the people and developing the people and spend more time doing that versus developing necessarily the business, it ends up kind of paying itself forward, so to speak. It sounds like maybe that's what was going on at that time for Tunderland in that case as well too. You kind of were maybe the poster child for that, type of experience, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people that were part of the team when I was there own their own businesses now. It really was a breeding ground for leadership, and Brian had a lot to do with that. I was lucky enough for the last 2 years when we moved into our new building to be in the office right across the hall from Brian and just soaked everything up like a sponge. How we talked to customers, how we talked to employees, how we built leaders in the business, and was able to learn a lot through eavesdropping, really.
It's a good place to be eavesdropping, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
So you kind of talked on it a little bit, but you left something that was established in a fairly short amount of time, and you jumped into a completely different world, full of construction, concrete roofing, siding, stuff like that. What was, you talked about kind of that relationship with Brian across the hallway, but you made that jump pretty quickly. Can you tell us a little bit more about why you made that jump?
Yeah, my dad has his own business. My grandpa had his own business. It's always been in my blood to be out on my own. And I was 25 or 26 at the time, so I was just young and full of energy and ready to go. So when my father-in-law, he had a great business up there. I mean, talk about $1 million a year business with a $0 marketing budget, because it was all just referral business in a small town in northern Wisconsin. Like, I didn't have to spend any money on marketing, and we could just have the phone ring consistently all day. So that was a huge advantage to be able to jump into that. And then just love learning. I get bored doing the same thing over and over again. So to be able to dive into that and not have experience pouring concrete or roofing or siding or framing, and just learning something new every day consistently, it was a blast.
That's cool, man. There's something valuable in that, because most people, I think, are familiar with, at least in our industry anyway, are familiar with that Tunderland journey, and where you guys were at that point was at least on its way to becoming very comfortable for what was being built. And maybe depending on if you were in first or second and the heaters were turned on or not at that point, right? But to take that leap, right, even though it's got a good referral base and all that kind of stuff, you're going from something that could potentially grow into something great. That's a big risk. And I think that there's easy paths that a lot of people get comfortable, stuck in, and have a hard time getting out of in our world. We see that a lot when we're working with business owners or managers or leaders, that, well, this is the way we've always done it and we're going to continue to do it. And a lot of times in order to move forward, you got to find that either sometimes a step sideways or even a step backwards at some, points to take that big step forward. And kudos to you, man, for taking that leap of faith in yourself and taking that chance.
Yeah. And I think, ask Brian, but honestly, what it felt like was I was getting groomed to be the COO of Tunderland eventually, which would have been awesome and probably very lucrative for where it went the couple years after I left. But my resume is a ping pong of jumping around, and I think that has really allowed me to learn all this stuff so quickly and have the experiences and the knowledge I have, because I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. I'm sure people look at my resume when I have applied for jobs and say he jumps around a lot, but it's the fastest way to learn quickly when you're young if you have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, gotta get thrown in the deep end every now and again. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, one of the things that I've appreciated is you're outspoken about what you're passionate about, what you believe in. So I have stumbled across some of your content online, and there's a phrase that you've used that kind of stuck with me, where you talk about focusing on getting better instead of getting bigger. And in a world, just go to Amazon or go to Audible, where everybody is obsessed with scale, with growth, with more. That's almost a little bit contrarian take to what a lot of people are saying. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that, if you would?
Yeah. 2 things in my experience of the businesses that I've worked with is, number one, the operations team being in a consistent cycle of chaos and firefighting. And it's just people pulling their hair out all day, every day, because they grew too fast and they don't have the time or the ability to fix the issues that came up when they grew too fast. And then second of all, seeing these companies, especially seeing the news that came out a couple months ago about Renovo, is these companies that grow so fast, they grow to scale, but they're not making any money. And I don't know about you guys, but if I'm going to own a business, I prefer to make money doing it, because it's a lot of work and it's a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I know Sean and I's time actually with Jacuzzi overlapped a little bit. He was on that corporate side. I was with an affiliate dealer that was representing Jacuzzi. And I know you guys went through quite a bit of that there where you guys were growing really fast on that corporate side. And knowing as a couple of the guys you were working with, there were definitely some growing pains you were going through during that time for sure. So I'm sure that philosophy of yours was probably solidified a bit more during that period.
Yeah, that's safe to say. Taking a bath business from 2 locations doing 12 million to 7 locations doing over 100 in 3 years. It was a lot of work. I was on the road constantly. My wife I think forgot I existed for a while because I was traveling so much. But yeah, it was fun though. I will say it was a lot of fun. We had a really good group of leaders in that business in the beginning. They're still going. They're still expanding, and it's still have a lot of people that worked with me over there, and still wish them the best of luck at what they're trying to do.
Yeah, there's growing pains that are inevitable, but there's certainly some that I'm in agreement with you. I think there's some that are avoidable if you take your time and you run at the right pace, right? So that's a really powerful thing. Franson, I think it connects pretty well to what we talked about on that episode where we were talking about the science of scaling and the idea that the businesses don't always have like execution problems. Sometimes they have like identity problems and they have that identity drift that happens and they just go, well, we'll figure it out. We'll take on this. We'll do that kind of thing. And they're trying to scale something that isn't ready to be scaled, right? Be really good at what you're doing now. Make sure you got it down 100% before you take that next step forward, even as tempting as that step can be when it's right around the corner, so to speak.
I was thinking the same thing. And Shaun, do you have any stories that you could maybe share about this? How maybe you've seen that play out where businesses did try to grow too fast before they had their foundation solid?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I see, and I I was experiencing it a lot on our installation side at Jacuzzi, is when you grow that fast and then the expectation is continued growth at that pace, you have no time to make personnel changes that need to be made really badly. You have installers that are constant service, not treating customers' houses like they're supposed to. You get stuck in this conundrum of, I need to replace him, but I need him in a truck tomorrow. I need to replace him,
Yeah.
but I need him in a truck tomorrow. It's enough to drive you crazy. And if you don't ever have time to slow down, to bring in those new people, get them trained up properly, and replace the bad eggs on your team, then you're stuck in that constant cycle of chaos.
That's a good point. It actually reminds me, I had a mentor of mine taught me a lot about leadership and growing a team. And one of the things he used to remind me of is you got to kind of constantly monitor the balance of the mutually beneficial like relationship between you and your team, and that like you need them as much as they need you, and that's a really healthy balance between the relationship. If it ever gets out of whack, where they know that you need them more than they need you, then they can do the things where maybe they don't take care of the customer as much as they should, or they cut the corner, or they show up late, or those kinds of things. Because to your point, as much as I want to get rid of you, God, the Joneses need you there for the install tomorrow, right? Or like I have 4 appointments that I don't want to just burn and throw away on the sales side kind of thing. And that's a dangerous spot to be in for sure.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
an awesome point.
Yeah, we've
Uh,
already rescheduled Mrs. Jones' shower 3
yeah.
times. We can't reschedule it again. We need you in that truck.
Right. I'd rather yell at you later today than have her yell at me for a 4th time. There's no doubt about that
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly.
So, Shaun, I know you've been vocal a little bit about the direction of maybe where the home improvement industry is going or is headed, or at least the perception of where it's headed. You've said that I know like prices are going up, and there's definitely some corner cutting that seems to be increasing by contractors out there, which quality and customer service, those types of things take a hit. We see those reviews online or horror stories on a regular basis. Do you think that this is a result of those companies that prioritize things like bigger over better. You mentioned Renovo. I know there's some stories around that kind of thing there. Is this a prime example of that in what you're talking about there?
Yeah, I think it's two things, Matt. One is we get bogged down with our short-term goals and we sacrifice our long-term culture for our short-term goals, and that's always going to be trouble. We got to hit our install target for May. I'm going to have the install guys work every weekend because we're behind on it. Now the install guys feel abused. They're not going to want to work hard for us. And now we've ruined our culture for 1 month's target. And we're going to be paying for that for the next year. I see a lot of that happening. And then second of all, one thing that my mentor Brian talked about in his Tunderland journey is when he switched from a home improvement company to thinking of Tunderland as a sales and marketing company. But I think too many companies are shifting their mindset to that sales and marketing mindset and forgetting, like, if I'm Joe Schmo's window company, my end product is the window. My end product is installing that window correctly with a smile the day we said we were going to come and the way we said we were going to install it. And too many companies are on the sexy side of sales and marketing. That's the fun side. You get to go out and wow the customer and do the cool ads and stuff. But at the end of the day, you're a window company, you're a roofing company, you're a concrete coatings company. You have to be good at delivering the end product consistently.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an awesome point. I've heard that story, and I heard Brian speak a couple of times. And the idea of we started off as a home improvement company that does flooring or roofing or siding or whatever it is, because we're good at doing that. And then eventually you grow to be a company that has to become a really good sales and marketing company. And hopefully you get the opportunity to become a really good training and recruiting company that does that process. I think the key to it is, like you just said, you also can't ever you got to carry that other part with you through all of those journeys. We are also the company that does windows, that does siding, that does flooring the entire time. Like that is the core of your identity the entire time too. So that's a good point.
Yep. And I see, a lot of the companies I've worked for, probably about 75% of the energy and resources goes into that sales and marketing side of the business. And then the production team kind of gets, you guys go do it now. We got to collect the money type of thing.
Yeah.
Jay, it's funny here because we have our first ever experience. Normally it's Jay and I arguing because I'm the sales guy, he's the marketing guy, so I'm complaining about the leads. Now it's the first opportunity for both of you to bitch at the sales guy and go, you're not running enough of the leads and you're selling them the wrong way. I could get ganged up. I didn't even think about the situation you might have put me in here, Jay.
Yeah. It was strategic.
Yeah.
One of the phrases that I really like, and they use it in a lot of different aspects of life, but they say slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And I think it's applicable to business as well, Shaun, as you're talking about, better before bigger. And so, for people that are listening right now and they're running their own home service business, whatever it might be, and they may be doing $1 million or $2 million a year, and they want to grow, what would you suggest to them? What does better before bigger actually look like then in practice?
Yeah, for me, I would ask you, have you communicated all of your expectations to your team of what they need to do to be successful? Do they have a clear understanding of what their expectation is day in and day out to be a part of the team and be a part of the culture of the team? And then the second part is, as a leader, are you consistently holding them accountable to those expectations? Because once we have everyone rowing in the same direction and we have those expectations set, we're consistently holding our team accountable. Now our team starts to hold each other accountable. And now we're in a position where we can start to add new team members because we don't have to babysit all of our new team members. Our team is all rowing in the same direction. They're going to hold those new team members accountable and get them into, fully engulfed into the culture and set on those same expectations that we're all a part of. One thing I did at Jacuzzi Bathroom Mall Boise is we made a list of expectations. We call it our production team mantra. And we all brought one. So my lead installers and my managers all brought one expectation. And then we agreed on adding a couple more. And we got it printed on a big banner, all signed it in the warehouse. And it's like, okay, every day when we have a decision to make, we look up at that banner and make sure that the decision we're going to make follows all those rules and expectations that we are holding ourselves accountable as a production team.
Man, I love that.
Good.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's, I think it's not easy, right? To hold yourself to standards, write them down and put them up on a wall and make sure you're living by them every single day. That's not necessarily an easy thing, but the beautiful thing about that is it's not complicated either, right? Those standards are generally the things we were taught in kindergarten, right? Keep your hands to yourself, do the right thing. We all know that icky feeling when we get in our stomach and when we think we're going to make a bad decision, but sticking to it is the hard part. So, but writing it down, putting it up on a banner, that's a beautiful thing. I love it.
Yeah, and as the leader, you have to expend the energy to hold them accountable day in and day out, and hold yourself accountable too, to not do that thing that we talked about earlier of short-term gains that sacrifice the
Mhm.
long-term culture. You have to walk the walk yourself as a leader. So that would be number one. Do you have that culture? Do you have those expectations? Number two, do you have a program in place that builds bench strength for your leadership team? Are you doing one-on-ones with your next generation of leaders? Do you have a book club in place that's reading leadership books? If we're going to grow, everybody's going to be shifting up the ladder, and you need a production
Mhm.
manager that can eventually turn into a GM, and you need an installer that can eventually turn into a production manager. And if you just throw them in there without that bench strength building throughout their career, they're going to be set up for failure.
Yeah,
It's awesome. Love it.
that's good. And that was the next question I was going to ask you is what does it actually look like to build a winning team? But you answered it before I could ask. That's great.
Yeah, and then last thing on the production side, and I'll let Matt be the sales expert and Jay be the marketing expert. But last thing on the install side is, do you have a training program in place that actually trains new employees to be successful? Because honestly, in my experience, I don't want to hire someone that has done concrete coatings before. I don't want to hire someone that's installed a one-day shower before. I want someone with a great attitude that can learn, and I want to have a training program in place so I can fast track them to success, because those are the people that are going to stick around with you. The guys with all the experience are going to bring their bad habits or jump at the first job posting that pays them $1 an hour more.
Yeah, Shaun, I know you and I have come from similar backgrounds and organizations. We've like I said, overlapped. Talked about that before, and one of the areas that I see, and you'll probably echo this, that people shortcut is that training, whether it's production, sales, or marketing. They're very quick, unorganized, not detailed enough, and we don't typically do a good enough job of setting them up for success right away. And man, that bleeds into, lack of efficiency first and foremost. There's no doubt about that, but it crushes your culture. They don't feel like they're invested in, they don't feel like they have a really great future. The opportunity just feels like it's not there for them, no matter what role they're in inside of your organization. If you don't take the time to really invest in putting together a good playbook for their onboarding, what it looks like for the first couple of weeks they're there, what it looks like after they get out of that training, and touching base with their managers or leaders, throughout the couple of weeks and months after that process. Again, I think that's a really huge thing, no matter what those roles are: production, sales, marketing, anything along those lines. So that's a big, big deal.
Yeah, totally agree. And how many times have we heard someone say, "Get him his own truck, he'll be fine." We don't have time to train him properly. Just put him in there; he'll figure it out in the field.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Hire them with the experience, and that way I don't have to train them that much. And it's like, well, they're looking for a role for a reason. Maybe the last place didn't train them really well, or they weren't doing really well where they were, and they need to know how you want them to do it. And then, the reality of it is you've given up the right to be upset with them when they don't do it how you want it done. And unfortunately, that doesn't typically happen in that scenario the way it should. So. Shaun, I think I read somewhere or maybe heard it on one of the shows that you were on before. You mentioned something, and I thought it was powerful, and I'm gonna maybe butcher what you said, so forgive me with that. But you mentioned talking about in your training and in your process of developing your people, teaching your people business fundamentals, not just like the X's and O's of how they need to execute their job, but like really understanding kind of like how that functions inside the role of the business itself. Why do you see that as being an important part of their training?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we've all heard, what I call the meeting after the meeting, where the installers are, out by their truck having a cigarette or whatever. Can you believe they're charging $15,000 for these showers? Can you believe that we're doing these floors for $6,000? And I think it's important
Mhm.
for them to understand where that money's going. That us as leaders aren't just all hanging out in Punta Cana all winter on the money that they made with their blood and sweat. But also, if they have a dream of owning their own business someday, I want to set them up for success for that. I don't ever want to hold an employee back and be like, oh, Jay's too good of an installer. I can never promote him to production manager, or you
Sure.
can't own your own business because that would mean you don't work for me anymore. People are meant to grow. And when you help them grow, they'll stick with you until it is time for them to blossom off and go start their own business.
Yeah, that's really good. And to be honest, I talk to a lot of business owners, and that's not actually a common mindset. Most people that I talk to are worried about having to train someone new, or I'm going to train this guy and then he's just going to leave, or I'm going to train this guy and he's just going to turn into my competitor, right? You're almost training people to eventually go out on their own.
Yeah. And I would love that for them. And if they do it, I want them to be successful because it's a difficult thing to go out on your own and start a business, especially if your only background is the technical side of, I'm really good at installing windows or I'm really good at installing showers. Most guys don't know where to start with marketing and sales and how to look at a P&L to make sure that you're making your profit margins. That's important to teach people.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's cool. Really cool mindset. Yeah, high five and a hug on the way out the door is always a better way to have them go. There's no doubt about that. It reminds me, there's I think it's Richard Branson quote again. I'll probably butcher it. I'm good at butchering quotes. I remember like part of them, but he's the one that says like train people well enough so that they could leave, but treat them well enough so that they don't ever really want to. Right. I think that that's a really cool philosophy. It sounds like that's kind of where you're operating from with that.
Yeah. And I've learned, especially in the fast scaling businesses, the solution has always been money to keep people around, right? Like, don't leave, I'll give you a $10,000 raise. I promise. Like, don't leave, I'll give you a bonus. But what I've seen time after time again is that raise or bonus keeps them happy for about 2 to 3 months.
Yep.
And then what do we all do as human beings? We increase our expenses to live to our means. And now they're in the same boat. They just have a nicer car, or they have
Yeah.
they bought a fishing boat, but they still are upset with you as a leader. They're still upset with the culture. They're still going
Yeah.
to leave eventually.
It's always a
Yeah.
new vehicle in the parking lot. That's always what it is.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So let maybe be a little bit tactical here for just a minute and say someone's listening, right? And they're trying to do some of this stuff, maybe teaching business fundamentals like you mentioned, or helping their team members grow. What would you say is the best place to start? Where?
So you should already be doing one-on-ones with your team. I would start in the one-on-one phase and first figure out who's interested. I don't want to jam information down someone's throat that's not interested. I don't want to waste my time or theirs trying to teach them if they're never interested in learning about business. That's perfectly fine. That's up to them. So I would focus on my one-on-ones. I like to do it in a one-on-one so I can tailor how we're talking with the goals of that certain employee so we can work on things. And yeah, that's where I would start. And if you're not doing one-on-ones just to get a gauge of how your employees are doing, you should definitely start yesterday.
Yeah, excellent advice. What about you mentioned those standards. We talk a lot about standards on our show and with our clients that we work with. A big believer that they're really going to determine your outcomes. There's no doubt about that. So if you were going to give advice on how to establish your standards and how to maintain them across your team, especially when you're not in the room, you mentioned your team helps do that. How would you give that advice? Where to start and how to set them up?
Sure. So my expectations start at the interview with a new employee, especially in the 1 day space. They got to know what's going to be expected of them. You might have 12, 13-hour days. It's not a set hours job. We start a job, we finish it no matter what that day. I think a lot of people can sugarcoat it because they're in desperate need of an employee, but that never works out in the end. You want them to know what they're getting into. On every employee's first day of work, I have an expectations talk with them before we start onboarding. Say, all right, Matt, welcome to the team. I have this number of expectations for everyone on my team. I'd like to communicate those to you. And then I'd like to hear if you have any expectations for a manager that you expect me to follow. Obviously, if they say, give me every Friday off, that's not a realistic expectation, but I at least want to hear them out of what their expectations are of a leader. And then it's just a no BS, full accountability. Like, one of my expectations is that you're on time every morning. And if we have a team meeting that starts at 6, at 6:01, the door's locked. And if you're late, you're going to sit outside and wait till the team meeting's done. And then you can come in and load up your truck. Just little things like that where it's relentless accountability so that they never have the option to slide past those expectations and get away with anything.
I like it. I like in the interview process, I think one of the things working with some people on the sales side, especially in this world for people that maybe haven't been in the sales world, one of the things that I'll try to teach them is at a certain point you need to almost be selling them out of the role. Right. Understand that you're going to put on, 50,000 miles a year onto a vehicle. You're going to give up some dinners and weekend time and that kind of thing. Like, are you okay with that? Because I've made that mistake early in my career, or maybe I didn't clarify that well enough and had somebody I thought was a great candidate and they get in and they're going, this isn't for me. And that's on me. I didn't do a good enough job of letting them know this is exactly what it takes to be very good at this role. Like, it's a hard way to make an easy living, right? And that's this is what you sacrifice to do it. So, setting those standards up is really good. But the maintaining them, like you're saying, the door is locked and shut if you're late, as much as like, yeah, you know what, the kid was sick and a little harder to get out the door today. I understand life happens, but I got to keep the door shut because we set the standard for everybody. That's a, hard line to maintain, but you got to maintain it.
Yeah. One of my favorite things my production manager used to do at Jacuzzi is if a installer was late, he would load their truck for them. And I know that sounds like a positive thing, but man, you want to feel you're late and now your boss is loading your truck for you. Like, that's enough
Yeah.
to make you show up on time the next day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like the hair on the back of my neck stood up when you started saying that.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah. One of the things I learned early on here at Powerful is in the early interview process with my employees as I'm onboarding them, I say, hey, I'm going to be super blunt with you. This job isn't for everybody. And I want to give you full permission to tell me to kick rocks.
Yeah.
Tell me you don't like it. Tell me you don't want to be here. Tell me you think it's a dumb company. But I'm in turn going to retain that same right to tell you, I don't think this is a good fit for you. And I want you to find somewhere else to be successful. And I've never had anyone like prickle at that. I've only had people say, thank you for your honesty. And so I think those clear expectations up front are important for sure. Now, I've been waiting. I've been biting my tongue, Shaun. I've been wanting to talk about marketing this whole time. Just talking about boring leadership stuff right now. Just kidding. But something that you've been vocal about recently, and I saw a comment that you posted to a marketing group online. It's face-to-face marketing and events, and I'd love to hear a little bit more from you on this. But in a world where everyone's obsessed with digital, I mean, that's where I kind of spend my days with Facebook, Google, SEO, website, stuff like that. You're making a case, and a strong case, for getting in front of people in person. Why? Why is that?
Man, the digital world is getting a little strange right now with AI and, people's level of trust in the internet kind of declining. It's a tough place to generate. I don't want to say good leads because every lead is a good lead, but just to generate consistent leads, I would say. Now, White Cloud Coatings, my current business, is really positioned as a family grassroots business. So my goal for that is with the face-to-face, is to get in front of people within my community. And I have a little bit of advantage because of how small we are, because not only am I working the event and talking to people, setting the appointments, but then I'm the one showing up at their door running the appointment. I'm not a stranger showing up at that point. We've already talked. We've already broke the ice. And to show up for your actual sales appointment with that part of the interaction already done, you have a huge advantage to get that sale at that point. But a lot of people don't have the proper training on how to perform at a face-to-face event. So they're not going to see the results that I'm seeing because I'm never sitting down. I'm always standing up in front of the booth. I'm engaging every single person that walks by my booth. I'm secondary engaging. You get the person that kind of like looks back at you after you talk, and it's like, all right, or the person my floor samples out on the floor and they're looking down at the floor. I'm like, you're looking, come over, let's talk. You got to be playful. You got to break that ice and have them come talk to you, because that customer that was looking at your floor and kind of about to walk away, that could be your $10,000 sale for the next day. And they just needed to be pushed over the edge of talking about it.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the events. I think they're good. I got kind of two questions for you. So I'm going to ask one up front here, because I know there's some in our world, the Pentech network, that are trying to get into this and maybe don't know what type of events, like, where are they going? What are they supposed to do? So like trade shows, home expos, community event, what type of events are you going to?
So I do all of them, but I have a preference. Home shows I don't like. And I know that's going to be, not the status quo, especially for floor coatings. We did pretty good at the home shows with the showers, but with the floor coatings, because it's such a want item instead of a need item in most cases, you have Mrs. Jones who's walking through the home show. She's talking to someone about a kitchen remodel. Her roof's leaking a little bit, so she's going to stop by the roofing table. And then, oh, I have been thinking about getting my garage floor coated too. Do you think it's more important to get your garage floor coated or your roof leak fixed? You know where her money's going. Now, if I set up at a RV or camping show, or my favorite event of the whole year, which is next weekend, the Boise Golf Show, now I'm in front of customers, and anyone that talks to me is pretty dang serious about getting this job done. They came there for a camper. They don't want to talk to me about floor coatings unless they're serious about it. The other thing, they're not getting any other estimates. I'm the only floor coating business at the RV show. I'm the only floor coating business at the golf show. I'm the only one coming, and I'm going to go there and I'm going to get the sale when it's time to get the sale.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. One of the places we had a lot of success with at the places that I was at prior to doing working with Powerful now is farmers market. It was wild, especially with the floor coating when we started introducing that there. It was great because it was, got dragged to a farmers market, and now it's like, oh, there's something cool for me to look at now and talk about. And I've always wanted to do this, and it was like shooting fish in a barrel, so to speak, because it was like I got an uninterrupted 15, minutes here while, fruit's being put into a basket over there. And I can get almost a full demo in with this person that thought they were going to be dragged from booth to booth about, does this one look ripe or not kind of thing. And yeah, to your point, they're not getting any other estimates and you're not competing for dollars with other projects, which is a cool thing. So the second question for you, you mentioned your advantage and then also like the training with this. One of the interesting things is there are people that will set sales reps at these events or events marketers. And traditionally in the worlds that we came from, we had specific dedicated events reps that were there. Pros and cons to either.
Yeah. So again, I'm in a special circumstance because of the small size of the business right now. But first of all, if you're going to start a business, start it around a lineup of shows like this. Sorry, Jay, don't pour $10,000 into marketing in your first month. Like plan your business opening around events and build your cash flow through those events. That's step one. I haven't had great luck putting sales reps at the events. They try to oversell. They're going to start to price condition right off the bat. Wouldn't be surprised if a sales rep even checked a credit score while they're at a home show. So event teams are great. You need the right person and you need the right compensation package. You need to reward what you want to get out of that. You need to set targets for each show and you need to pay for performance.
This is a really important point that I want to make sure that our listeners that maybe have thought that they don't work, like these shows don't work. If you are in that category and you are having your sales reps work these, again, the thought process might be that they're looking for any opportunity to sell anything they can because that's how they make money, which in theory should be 100% accurate. However, they will do as much disqualifying as they can to make sure that when they are going to go to a home, it's going to be as prime as humanly possible. I know because I am a sales rep, and that's unfortunately the human side of my brain as well too, is probably what I would have done if I were in that situation, right? If I'm going to set up an appointment for 2:00 tomorrow when I'm available, and that's the only slot I have, I want to make sure it's the best opportunity I can go to. And to the point of like the guy that kind of peeked at the floor walking by that you said earlier, Shaun, that could have been a $10,000 sale that I let walk away because it didn't feel as good as maybe, the person that stopped and talked to me for 10 minutes, so to speak. So yeah, if you have somebody that is incentivized on setting good quality appointments based off of like level of interest that they, could get at a show, I would encourage you to do that all the time. And that may be the reason you're convinced they don't.
Yeah. Yep. And, I spent the RV show next to a booth of a very prominent leaf filter gutter company. And they had an absolute freaking rock star for their events person. I mean, she was engaging people 3 to 4 times. I actually had to like ask her to knock it down to 3 because she was in the booth next to me and she was still talking to the people as they were walking by my booth and I couldn't even get a word in.
Oh,
But I was asking her about her compensation package and I loved it. It's, hourly wage. She gets $25 for every leader appointment she gets from the show. If it sells, she gets 100. And if she hits her appointment target for the show that the GM or the CEO sets, she gets an additional bonus on top of that. So bonus for each engagement, even better if it sells. And if the show is a success, according to the marketing team, a little extra on top.
Sounds like a winner to me.
Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for someone who has not done event marketing before, does the actual ROI look like compared to, let's just stick with digital? Digital's the enemy in this conversation.
Yeah. Yep. I've kind of noticed I have a little bit of different philosophy on marketing budget than most. I'm not trying to grow my company exponentially. So My cost of marketing target for each month is 10%. I want to be as efficient as I can on the sales side so that I keep my cost of marketing at 10%. So the rest of it falls to the bottom of the line, below the line at the end of the month. But as far as shows go, I mean, we've only done a few this year. The RV show, for example, cost me $650. Just wrapped up the last sale from that show this morning. We sold $25,000 off a $650 booth. Now I sat there for 4 straight days and grinded to get there. But even if you're paying somebody $20 an hour, you know, 800 to $1,000 to the booth cost, and you're still a big winner at that show.
100%. Yeah, I think there's also something to be said. You mentioned earlier about the face-to-face, almost like pre-relationship build that happens. We don't get that opportunity on the phone, even though you do a little bit. I know as a sales rep going in the home, you'll get that conversation with, Susie was great. She was so sweet on the phone, but there's definitely a different level of conversation that happens from the person they meet at a show, even if it's, again, a split. If you get the advantage of being the person that's doing it the right way at the show that also gets to show up, that's a huge advantage. Even if you're not getting a ton of appointments and sales out of it, you are still also brand awareness and building yourself in the community. If you got somebody that's standing in front of the booth and presenting well, and that's a good local brand, good local company, family owned, that kind of thing, that's a message you get to put out there, which is a big level of trust that's being built there too. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's all part of a larger marketing mix that continues to just blast your brand in front of people's eyes consistently throughout their day.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, my guess is because Fitz and I have thousands of followers on social media, right? That somebody is going to be like, I've never done it before. I want to start incorporating this face-to-face marketing that Shaun talked about. Where do I start?
Yeah, start with a booth design. You don't have to get crazy. 6-foot folding table, tablecloth, some color samples, and get some decent banners printed at your local sign shop for a couple $100. You want to look professional, but you don't need to look like you're owned by private equity on the first day you show up to the show. And then it's just really scouring the internet for these offshoot shows. The home shows are going to be super easy to find with a simple Google search. But what I do to find the smaller shows is where in your community holds the shows. Where's the expo center? Where's the event center? Go to their website, go to the event calendars that they have on their website, figure out where the boat shows, RV shows, and golf shows are. You can find them really good there. There are some websites that are event focused where you can just put in your zip code and it'll give you a list of the events that are happening in your area. And then Chamber of Commerce websites are great as well. My funniest show from last year was I did this little suburb, Star, Idaho's Easter egg hunt. I set up a booth at their Easter egg hunt in the park. Cost me $250 to set up a booth there, and I sold 15,000 in floors for sitting there for like
That's
3
awesome.
hours.
Yeah.
Sounds
really
like a winner to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
One piece of advice, having sat at some of those shows too, get yourself one of the cushion pads to stand on, especially when you're standing on concrete. That might be worth the $30 investment as well too. That's the little added expense. But again, if you're going to get a couple $1,000s out of sales out of it, it's going to pay for itself pretty quickly. Last question on this topic for you, just because again, somebody's already got a pre-built budget for the digital and all the other things that they need to do to have a good mix. How do you balance it?
Yeah. For my budget, I would say shows are about 25% of my monthly budget. Now, if you want to dive into some of the other face-to-face marketing techniques, like having a canvassing team, that might grow a little bit. I know some companies are 100% canvas. I don't like people knocking on my door, so I don't like to knock on other people's doors. But it's all up to you. I think 25% is pretty healthy. If you have an events team instead of working the shows yourself, that budget might go up a little bit with the added employees.
Sure.
Yeah, and time will tell. It might go into more of a 50% in the coming years when the digital space continues to get a little bit overpopulated. You might have a better chance of getting some leads, putting some more money into the face-to-face.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's
And
some good insight.
one more thing on the face-to-face that we didn't cover for people starting that's super important: set appointments at the show. Don't give out business cards. Don't take names and phone numbers. Set an appointment. And if you need to, have a free giveaway item that people get if they set an appointment. Like at the golf show, I'll have my whole table covered with sleeves of Pro V1 golf balls. And if a customer's like, "Oh, I'll give you a call next week," I'll just say, "Well, if you set an appointment with me right now, you get to take a sleeve of these golf balls with you," and that'll get people over the edge to give you a time and a date.
I just saw your tee shot. I know you need more balls.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Here, go hit these into the trees. That's awesome. All right. So this has been a great conversation, but before we let you go, we do want to hit you with a few rapid fire questions. So
Sure.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. How about what's the best piece of advice that you've been given about business?
Brian Gottlieb, it's okay to be wrong. Just don't be wrong for long.
Good one.
That's good. All right. Biggest mistake you've made that taught you the most?
So when I took over my father-in-law's company, I tried to be my employee's friend instead of my employee's leader, and learned that lesson that you can't lead when you're an equal. You can be supportive and you can be a mentor, but you can't be their friend.
You are not alone in that mistake, sir. I think many of us have made that one. So, all right. How about one thing that you wish you knew when you started in this industry that you know now?
Ooh, that's a good one. Where it would take me, I guess. I wish I could have told the future when I took that job with Tundraland, putting job folders together. I never dreamed that 12 years later I'd be sitting with Fitz and Franson on their podcast talking about leadership.
Didn't know you get stuck on a show with two boring guys talking about concrete coatings and event marketing. Cool.
I think that's a message for everyone. It's a great industry to get in if you can work your butt off and take in everything you can work your way up quickly and have a really nice career.
There you go.
That's good. So if someone's stuck in the corporate grind right now, dreaming about starting their own thing, what would you tell them?
Reach out to someone who's done it and see what it takes. A lot of people talk about what's the worst case scenario. You fail and then you go back and you're in the same exact position you were in when you decided to take the leap. It's easy to catastrophize that you'll go bankrupt and you'll lose your house. Just don't try to become a $5 million company in the first week. Take it slow, do it debt free if you can, and grow healthy and grow at the pace that you're comfortable with.
All right. Last one for you here. And this is one of my favorite ones to ask. What is something that you had a previous manager or leader of yours do that you swore you would never do that you're surprised to find yourself doing?
Feel like this one fits. Selling in the home. I can't believe I'm selling in the home now. I always gave the sales guys
Welcome to the dark side, Shaun.
Yeah.
Welcome to the dark side, buddy.
Yeah, I always gave the sales guys crap being on the production side, and now I'm carrying the bag.
Come on, man.
That's good.
Come on. It feels good, doesn't it?
I mean, you guys always just made it seem so hard. It's pretty easy.
Okay, I love it. Love it.
The show's
Love
over.
it.
We're good.
No, I just keep talking about this, Shaun. This
It was
conversation's
great having
really
you
good.
on right till now.
That's awesome. Well, this has been a great conversation, Shaun. We appreciate you being on the team. So where can people find you, follow your content, learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, be honest with you, Jay, I don't post a lot. If I have an idea pop into my head, I usually throw it on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Otherwise, one of my best friends in the industry, Joe Downey, has a great Facebook group called In-Home Sales Professionals on his Facebook page. If you're a salesperson in the home, join that group. There's so much good insight on there, and I post on there as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, Fitz, any final thoughts?
Sure. I think a couple big takeaways here. Simple but important. Better before bigger, I think, is a good summary here. Take care of your people. No doubt about that. I think that's something that Shaun definitely represents. Keep it simple is always a good theme and something that I've heard Shaun talk about a couple of times in different spots and stops along the way. And don't be afraid to get in front of people in the face-to-face game. I think that is something that we hear a lot of with people talking about lead costs growing. This is a great way to, one, get out in front of your community and make sure they know who you are and that you're invested in them, and create a lower cost lead opportunities for yourself that can help. Growth isn't necessarily about doing more. It's about doing the right things well.
Yeah. That's some good wisdom you got there, Fitz. So, well, Shaun, yeah, right? Thanks again for joining us, Shaun. It's been great.
Yeah, no, I had fun. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming, buddy. And look, hey, everyone that's been listening, if this is an episode that's resonated with you, if you could do us a favor, share it with someone that you might think needs to hear it. And as always, ring the bell and like and subscribe and let us know what you thought.
And if you didn't, maybe the next one will. We'll see you next time on the Fitz and Franson Show.
Happy hunting, everybody.